She's here, Marco hissed, wiping sweat from his brow. Victoria Blackwood. Even the name tasted like ash. Nobody crosses her. But tonight felt different. See, Victoria didn't know about the slipped invoices, the rigged health inspections, the quiet sabotage that Maria, the new owner, had been enduring for weeks. They thought Maria was just some naive immigrant, pouring her heart into this crumbling Italian bistro. They have no idea that her quiet kindness is steel. Compassion can be a weapon, you see. And Victoria, she's about to walk into a fight where the only thing tougher than her reputation is Maria's heart. It'll be a beautiful disaster. Trust me. She's here, Marco hissed, wiping sweat from his brow. Victoria Blackwood. Even the name tasted like ash. Nobody crosses her. But tonight felt different. See, Victoria didn't know about the slipped invoices, the rigged health inspections, the quiet sabotage that Maria, the new owner, had been enduring for weeks. They thought Maria was just some naive immigrant, pouring her heart into this crumbling Italian bistro. They have no idea that her quiet kindness is steel. Compassion can be a weapon, you see. And Victoria, she's about to walk into a fight where the only thing tougher than her reputation is Maria's heart. It'll be a beautiful disaster. Trust me. Victoria Blackwood's arrival was an event, announced by the growl of her silver Bentley and the staccato click of her custom-made heels on the worn cobblestones outside Romano's. For 15 years, Millbrook trembled before her. Restaurant owners rewrote menus to her exacting specifications. Boutique clerks sweated under her scrutinizing gaze. Even Richard, her tech mogul husband, navigated their opulent penthouse with the cautious steps of a bomb disposal expert. Romano's, however, was new territory, and tonight it was different. The air thrummed with a newfound energy, a warmth that had been missing under old Giuseppe's reign. Maria Santos, the new owner, had transformed the tired space. Amber lights cast a flattering glow, softening the harsh lines. Fresh flowers, spilling from terracotta pots, added splashes of vibrant color. The aroma of garlic, oregano, and simmering tomatoes hung heavy and inviting. Victoria paused just inside the door, her practiced eye cataloging every detail. The table settings were perfect, the silverware gleaming. The background music, a lilting Italian ballad, was appropriately unobtrusive. Yet something was off. It was too welcoming, too genuine. It lacked the subservient fear she'd grown accustomed to. A young woman approached, her dark hair pulled back in a simple braid. She wore a crisp white apron, dusted with flour, over a simple dress. Her smile was wide and genuine, radiating warmth like the Tuscan sun. Buonasera, she greeted, her voice carrying a hint of an unfamiliar accent. Welcome to Romano's. I'm Mia. What can I get for you tonight? Victoria raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. I'll take my usual table by the window, and I expect impeccable service. Mia's smile didn't falter. Of course, right this way. Maria put you at your favorite spot, hoping you would be back. As she led Victoria through the bustling dining room, she chatted effortlessly, pointing out the intricate details of the restored stained glass windows and the antique photographs that lined the walls. Maria found them at a flea market in Florence. She said they tell a story of this place, of family and tradition. Victoria found herself momentarily disarmed. Most people stammered and averted their gaze in her presence. This girl, however, seemed oblivious to her reputation, chattering on about the restaurant's history and Maria's passion with disarming sincerity. Your water, signora, Mia said, placing a crystal glass on the table with a flourish. And a little something from Maria. Focaccia fresh from the oven. She presented the basket with such reverence that Victoria almost felt guilty for her inevitable critique. She took a bite. The bread was extraordinary, light and airy, infused with rosemary and sea salt. Against her better judgment, a flicker of pleasure crossed her face. She quickly composed herself. It's acceptable, she conceded. Now I need to speak with the manager about the dress code. Mia's eyes crinkled with amusement. The flour? It fell from the vase when I was helping Maria with the bread rush. Sometimes we all pitch in where we are needed, she said with a shrug. It is like being part of a family here. The word hung in the air, a foreign concept in Victoria's carefully curated world. Business deals, social maneuvering, strategic alliances. Those were the terms she understood. Family was a weakness, a liability. Mia leaned in conspiratorially. Besides, she whispered, I think the flour makes me look more authentic, like I really belong in an Italian kitchen. Her laugh, light and airy as the focaccia, sent a strange shiver down Victoria's spine. How dare this girl be so effortlessly content, so free from the burdens of ambition and social expectation? Throughout the evening, Victoria watched Mia with a critical eye, waiting for the facade to crumble. Everyone had an angle, a breaking point, a price, but Mia moved through the dining room with unwavering grace, remembering names, anticipating needs, and offering genuine smiles. When an elderly gentleman fumbled his wine glass, Mia didn't just clean up the mess. She knelt beside him, engaging him in conversation about his vineyard, making him feel valued and respected. Giuseppe never knew I preferred the Pinot Noir, the gentleman confided. But this lovely young woman remembered after only one visit. Victoria felt a prick of something unfamiliar, a pang of envy. She couldn't remember the last time someone had paid attention to her preferences without expecting something in return. When Mia returned to Victoria's table, she found her staring out the window, her expression unreadable. How is everything this evening? You seem a little far away, Mia ventured. The question caught Victoria off guard. I beg your pardon. Sometimes when people get that distant look, Mia said gently, they're carrying something heavy. My grandmother used to say the richest people often have the poorest hearts. Victoria's composure cracked slightly. Your grandmother sounds like she had too much time for foolish sentiments. Maybe, Mia conceded with a shrug, but she also had a family who adored her, friends who would do anything for her, and died with a smile on her face. The words hit Victoria like a physical blow. Her pristine mansion, the designer clothes, the exclusive social circles. What did it all amount to? Richard was always working, their conversations revolving around balance sheets and stock options. When had they last simply talked? I don't need your pity, Victoria snapped, but her voice lacked its usual bite. Mia shook her head. It's not pity, Signora. It's recognition. I see someone who has become powerful and has forgotten the most important thing to be, is loved. Victoria sat in stunned silence as Mia moved away. The young woman had dismantled years of carefully constructed defenses with a few simple words, revealing the emptiness beneath the facade. As closing time approached, Victoria realized she'd spent the entire evening at Romano's, not because the service was slow, but because leaving meant returning to her beautiful, empty life. For the first time in years, she didn't want the evening to end. But Mia was about to deliver news that would change everything. Mrs. Blackwood. Mia approached the table with unusual hesitancy. I'm sorry to bother you, but there's something I need to tell you. Victoria braced herself, expecting the evening's spell to break. Perhaps Mia had finally recognized her and was about to grovel for forgiveness or demand money or reveal some ulterior motive. Instead, Mia sat down across from her, a breach of protocol that should have infuriated Victoria, but somehow felt natural. I know who you are. I've known since you walked in. Victoria's wall slammed back up. Then you've been playing some kind of game. Oh, no game. Just trying to see the person behind the reputation. Mia's voice remained steady. My cousin works at the Grandview Hotel. She told me about the night you made the housekeeper in the break room and gave her a $1,000 tip. You told her it was for maintaining standards, but Maria, that's my cousin. She said you looked like you wanted to say something else. Victoria's hands trembled slightly. She'd wanted to apologize that night, but the words wouldn't come. She'd been raised to believe apologies were admissions of weakness. I did come back, Victoria whispered, but I couldn't. I don't know how to be human. Mia's voice held no judgment, only understanding. It's not easy when you've built armor so thick, you've forgotten what skin feels like underneath. Victoria looked up, startled by the metaphor's accuracy. How do you know these things? You're barely old enough to understand pain. I'm 26, Mrs. Blackwood, but I've been working since I was 12 to help my family survive. I've cleaned houses for women who treated me like furniture, served food to men who thought my accent made me stupid, and smiled through humiliation more times than I can count. Mia's composure never wavered. The difference is I chose not to let that pain make me cruel. The words hung between them like a mirror Victoria couldn't bear to look into. She saw herself suddenly as Mia must see her, a woman so wounded by her own upbringing that she'd become the very thing she'd once feared. I don't know how to change, Victoria admitted, her voice barely audible. I don't even know who I am underneath all this anymore. Mia reached across the table and gently covered Victoria's manicured hand with her work-roughened one. The simple gesture broke something inside Victoria's chest. Maybe that's okay. Maybe you don't have to know who you are yet. Maybe you just have to start being who you want to become. Victoria felt tears threatening for the first time in years. What if it's too late? What if I've hurt too many people? Mia smiled with infinite compassion. It's never too late to plant a seed. Even in winter, the ground is just waiting for spring. Have you ever faced something like this? Let us know in the comments. But as Victoria sat there contemplating this impossible transformation, she had no idea that the universe was about to test her newfound resolve in the most public way imaginable. Part 5. Climax and resolution begins. 540 words. The next Friday evening brought the monthly gathering of Millbrook's social elite to Romanos, a dinner party hosted by the mayor's wife to discuss the upcoming charity gala. Victoria arrived early, her heart hammering with nervous anticipation. She'd spent the week thinking about Mia's words, practicing small kindnesses in private, trying to remember what it felt like to be genuine. Mia greeted her with the same warm smile, but Victoria caught the flicker of surprise in her eyes. Back so soon. I'm glad. We have a wonderful special tonight. Before Victoria could respond, the restaurant filled with familiar faces. Millbrook's power players swept in like a tide of designer perfumes and practiced laughter. Victoria watched Mia's demeanor remain unchanged as she welcomed each new arrival with equal warmth. But the other patrons treated Mia exactly as Victoria once had, as invisible, inconsequential, barely human. Margaret Whitmore, the mayor's wife, snapped her fingers at Mia like summoning a pet. Robert Sterling, who owned half the commercial. Properties in town, interrupted Mia mid-sentence to bark orders. Victoria watched it all with growing discomfort, seeing her own past behavior reflected in their casual cruelty. The breaking point came when Charlotte Ashford, wife of the bank president, sent back her perfectly prepared meal for the third time. "This is inedible," she announced loudly, clearly intending to humiliate Mia in front of the gathered elite. "I don't know what kind of establishment hires incompetent girls who can't even manage simple orders." Mia stood there, professionally composed, but with hurt flickering in her eyes. Victoria saw the young woman's hands tremble slightly as she accepted the plate again, apologizing for something that wasn't her fault. Something ignited in Victoria's chest, not the familiar flame of anger, but something entirely different. Justice, protection, love. She stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. The restaurant fell silent. "Charlotte." Victoria's voice carried clearly across the room, but it held a tone no one had ever heard before. Firm yet warm, powerful yet kind. That meal was perfect. I watched Mia prepare it with care, and I watched you deliberately find fault where none existed. Charlotte's mouth fell open. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Victoria continued, walking slowly toward Mia's side. This young woman has shown more grace and dignity in one evening than most of us have managed in our entire lives. She remembers every customer's preferences, anticipates needs before they're spoken, and treats everyone, regardless of their bank account, with genuine respect. She turned to face the room full of shocked faces. When was the last time any of us did that for each other? When did we stop seeing people as human beings and start treating them like servants in our personal kingdoms? Mia looked up at Victoria with amazement and gratitude, but Victoria wasn't finished. I've spent 15 years being exactly like Charlotte, demanding perfection while offering nothing but criticism, using my wealth as a weapon instead of a tool for good. Her voice grew stronger. But Mia taught me something this week. Real power isn't making people fear you. It's being brave enough to let them love you. If you've been enjoying this story, subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales. The room remained frozen as Victoria faced the consequences of choosing humanity over hierarchy, love over fear. The silence stretched until Mia stepped forward, her voice clear and confident. "Mrs. Blackwood, thank you. But I think what you really taught yourself is something even more important, that it's never too late to choose who you want to be." Charlotte's face had cycled through confusion, outrage, and finally something that might have been shame. Margaret Whitmore cleared her throat awkwardly. Robert Sterling studied his wine glass as if it held the secrets of the universe. Victoria felt the weight of years lifting from her shoulders. "You're right, Mia, and I choose to be someone my grandmother would have been proud of." She turned back to the room. "My grandmother was a seamstress who treated every customer like family. She taught me that dignity isn't something you can buy or inherit, it's something you give and receive." Over the following weeks, something beautiful began to bloom in Millbrook. Victoria's transformation rippled outward like stones in still water. She started volunteering at the community center Mia had mentioned, using her organizational skills to coordinate meal programs for elderly residents. She convinced Richard to establish a scholarship fund for immigrant students. Remembering Mia's stories about working her way through night school, the monthly social gatherings at Romano's evolved too. Instead of competitive displays of wealth, they became genuine fundraising efforts. Mia, now promoted to assistant manager by Maria, helped coordinate events that raised thousands for local causes. But the most profound change was in Victoria herself. She learned to apologize, really apologize, to people she'd hurt. She started small with brief notes to former staff members, then grew braver. Some conversations were awkward, others tearful, but each one freed another piece of her authentic self. Richard noticed the difference immediately. "It's like I married a different woman," he told her one evening as they walked hand in hand through downtown Millbrook. "No, that's not right. It's like I finally married the woman you always were underneath." 6 months later, Victoria stood in Romano's helping Mia serve Thanksgiving dinner to anyone in the community who needed a meal. Her manicured hands ladled gravy just as expertly as they'd once signed business contracts. Her designer dress was splattered with cranberry sauce, and she'd never been happier. Mia paused beside her, flower in her hair as always. "You know what I realize? That first night, I wasn't trying to humble you or teach you a lesson. I was just being myself." Victoria smiled, understanding flowing between them like a bridge built of mutual respect. "And you gave me permission to be myself too." I just forgotten who that was. As the evening wound down and the last guests headed home with full stomachs, grateful hearts, Victoria looked around the warm restaurant, filled with the echo of laughter and connection. This was what family felt like. This was what love looked like in action. Mia had been right. It was never too late to plant a seed. Victoria had planted hers in the soil of humility, watered it with genuine care, and watched it bloom into something beautiful. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales. Thank you for joining us on this journey of transformation, and